The martial arts game in Muay Thai in Queensland is a funny sort of business. You get a few blokes who are a blip on the radar, a few guys who last a couple of years, a few blokes like myself who've been around for 30 years. But in martial arts in Queensland, there is one name and one man that has towered above all and has lasted around longer than anyone else. And that man was Kocho Malcolm Anderson. And we're lucky enough to have Kocho on the show today. Malcolm, thank you very much for coming on and taking the time out.
Thank you.
Yeah, with a career like yours that you've had in this game, it's just so hard to know where to start. But I suppose starting at the beginning, when you started Bushi Kai in Melbourne, you trained with Bob Jones and Richard Norton, and it must have been a hell of an experience for you.
It was. It's a completely different era, you know, a different attitude. I was just a young street kid. Thought I knew everything, you know, and then it was a pretty hard place to survive in those days. You had to know how to defend yourself. So I started to search around to try and find somewhere where I could learn the art of self-defence. And it was very limited in those days.
Yeah, well, that it was too. Once you got going in Melbourne, I believe you came up to Queensland in 1974, started the Hombu stable.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, geez, I'll tell you what, there were some hard men, and some of the guys are still training today, the types of James Reed and Jeff Ellis and all those boys, they're still going just like yourself.
Yes, Tony Quinn, Rod Stroud, some very tough, hard men, and a lot of them were the pioneers in karate, and also started off the kickboxing, which was back in the days before Muay Thai, which was kicking above the waist and the 6 kick rule.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that because we used to lose points every time we didn't throw the 6 or 8 kicks depending on the fight.
That's correct.
Yeah, the first fights that happened were actually not in the ring. It was just like on a small type of ring surrounded by people who were the ring ropes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it started to hit big. You know, first of all, it was just the karate schools, and then kickboxing. We started to see it. Then obviously, Australia wanted to get involved in it. So Bob Jones said to me, "Can you put together a kickboxing show here?" And I said, "Well, I suppose so." So I just had a word to some of me tough, hard boys and said, "Are you two prepared to fight each other?" And they jumped in and they had a go at it. And a couple of those fights there, you could have actually matched on a show today because they knew what the game was about and they were hard men, you know what I mean? So I think that's where it all originated from.
Yeah, well, you were the very first promoter in Queensland. Eventually, Chris Charchellis and Dave Briggs, Robbie Rushton were helping out, but you were the first guy. And it's funny, just about anyone who was anyone in the game in the last 30 years have had their first fights or the first main events on a Malcolm Anderson show. And I don't think there's another promoter in the country who can say that.
No, that's correct. It's a bit of a who's who of the people that have fought, and a lot of them have gone on and become world champions. Quite a few then have gone out, branched out, and opened up their own stables. And it's got very big. It's probably now 3 generations. And one of the big things Australia did was they jumped in on Muay Thai very early, you know, like Holland was doing it and a few other places. Australia went in and did it, and the first few times we did shows and fought the Thais, they just completely flogged us.
Yeah.
You know, but we just came back and back, then we draw one, win one. You know, now you see guys that are now fighting continually in Thailand and giving them a real run for their money now. So they've really matured now.
That's right with the Thai. I remember those days because Malcolm, you and Dave Briggs were instrumental in having those big shows at Festival Hall.
That's correct, yes.
And it was funny, I thought Blake's tried hard, but you brought all the top Thais over, and I don't think we knew really how good these guys were.
Well, Dave Briggs actually brought over the Lumpini touring side. You know, and some of our fighters, which was Ian Jacobs and Nugget and Paul Briggs and Nathan Briggs, when they introduced them, they were saying, and he's had 25 fights, you know, and the crowd thinking, well, that's good. And then the guy that were going to fights had 300 fights at Lumpini, you know, and but the boys stood there, and Tony Hill actually won his fight.
That's right, I remember that.
You know, and that was the breakthrough, you know, when we started to realise we can do this game. You know, it's just that we had to build up the experience, you know, the hard knocks.
Well, Malcolm, that's probably about all we've got time for today. It's an amazing range of subjects that we covered, and just an incredible career that you have had and are still having too. Like your Bloodex, people have been with you for 20 years, come out with you today, just out of loyalty and support, and they're going to be there for life too, I think.
Well, we're a family. You know, like we are a brotherhood, you know, and we're strong. We've got very strong bonds. We've been to each other's weddings. We've had to go to some of the funerals.
Yeah.
We're godfathers to each other's children. You know, like it's a strong bond. It's not just a martial arts style. It's a family.
That's right, a lot of sports can't boast that either. Well, once again, Malcolm, thank you very much for coming on the show. We're really honoured to have you on today, and it's going to look great when it comes out.